Days after defeating a legendary Pokemon, Team Fish Power walked into Amp Plains confident. This is the part of the run that everyone thought was impossible, but Dory the Feebas and Marlin the Magikarp were going to prove everybody wrong. The fight started, and they were wiped in seconds. The fight wasn't unlucky, there wasn't a misplay. We eliminated one Electrike and then immediately ceased to exist. So for the first time in this run, Team Fish Power ran away. But to understand how we ended up here, we need to rewind. Beating Pokemon Mystery Dungeon with only Feebas and Magikarp should be impossible, but Team Fish Power proved their resolve by clawing through the early game of Explorers of Sky. They stood up to Marlin's bullies, threw a criminal Drowzee behind bars, and somehow, against every law of nature, took down a legendary Groudon. At this point, I was feeling confident, which historically speaking is the most dangerous status condition in Pokemon. Because everything after this gets way worse. From here on out, the dungeons scale faster, the bosses get meaner, and the fish have to prove again that proper strategy and determination might just be enough to survive. Again, a quick breakdown of the rules. No bringing items into dungeons. No extra party members. No stat boosting held items. Magikarp holding throne items, however, is acceptable. No Wonder Mail, and no drinking in game. Drinking in real life, however, is a soft requirement once Amp Plains enters the chat. Our soggy heroes return from Steam Cave, bruised, exhausted, and one mud slap away from retirement. Going into this challenge, I assumed Dory the Feebas would be the backbone of the team. But during the Groudon fight, she faltered when it mattered most. For the first time, I wondered if Magikarp was the real star of the show, but I couldn't dwell on those thoughts for long, because the world of Explorers of Sky isn't done with us yet, and villains are out there plotting their revenge. The team gets a couple days off and runs errands for the guild. One day, a Dusknoir who Wigglytuff knows as a famous explorer rolls into town, but before Marlin and Dory can even exchange pleasantries with them, they are informed that Azumarill's special item, a water float, has been stolen and is being held at Amp Plains. With a bit of swagger in their swim, the team set off to retrieve the Marlboro's item, but they didn't realize Amp Plains was being guarded by a horde of demons. That would be their greatest challenge yet. The team felt confident, but that lasted exactly one floor until this happened. A monster house on the first floor was very humbling, but luckily for us, the rest of the first 10 floors in Amp Plains proved to be much easier. While Amp Plains is known for its electric Pokemon, in Explorers of Sky, most of the scariest Pokemon don't appear until post-game. Pichu, Pikachu, Phanpy, and Shinx only appear after the game is beaten. This leaves unevolved Pokemon like Plusle, Minun, Mareep, and Elekid as threats for the first 10 floors. The second half takes a significant step up in difficulty. Mareep become more powerful Flaffies and Ampharos. Elekid are replaced by Electabuzz, and Electrike up to level 21 roam at the higher floors as a warning for what awaits us at the top. After just 3 wipes, we finally reach a clearing and discover that Amp Plains is guarded by a territorial tribe of Manectric and Electrike. Every boss fight so far gave Team Fish Power a numbers advantage, but here, the game changed the rules. These electric dogs hunt in packs, meaning we will be facing off against 1 level 33 Manectric and 8 level 18 Electrikes. To make things worse, these Pokemon were all electric types. While Team Fish Power was outnumbered, they were also level 33, meaning they had a clear level advantage on most of these enemies. Team Fish Power had just defeated a legendary Pokemon. They weren't gonna let this gang of Raikou wannabes stop them now. That confidence lasted exactly 1 Electrike. The team was only able to eliminate 1 Electrike before wiping. Surely this is a fluke. After all, Team Fish Power had come so far. The fish pulled themselves together and challenged the tribe again. And again, the same result. We had come so far, but the swift defeats were a reminder that nothing comes easy when you're born as 2 weak fish. The tribe was strong. Manectric is guaranteed to no bite. The other 3 moves will vary between the following listed below. Out of all these moves, Spark is the biggest to worry about, but we had decent odds of not encountering it. The Electrike are less scary. They're guaranteed to know Quick Attack, but will know 3 of the following moves. All Pokemon have the static ability, meaning every hit risk paralysis. I just didn't see an answer to that in our current team. So for the first time in the run, Dory and Marlin are forced to retreat, not to grind, but to rethink everything. All obstacles so far were caused by our horrible stats. But this wasn't about power, this was a numbers game. Team Fish Power typically had the numbers advantage in fights, and it needed to find a way to tip the scales back in their favor. Luckily, I knew just the move to do it. We just needed to pick up a new TM from our favorite purple pawn star. In the previous video, I said that I had been checking the Kecleon shop every day for TMs, but that isn't exactly true. You see, you can force the Kecleon shop to re-roll the items by entering a dojo dungeon and leaving. This is an easy way to reset the shop to find the items you're looking for. This is how we got Rest and Ice Beam to deal with Groudon, and we used the same strategy to find our next upgrade. After gaslighting the shop owners into thinking the day had changed 50 times, we purchased the move Blizzard. Now, this is one of the most broken moves in the game. Blizzard is able to hit every Pokemon in the room and for strong damage, although it doesn't have a high accuracy. But all we need to do is wipe out most of the Electrike. Once the odds are even, I'm confident that our fishy friends can handle the Manectric alone. The main drawback with Blizzard is its inaccuracy, meaning some unlucky rolls could cost us the battle. We made our way up to Amp Plains to test out Dory's newfound power. This battle wasn't just for a water flow, it was for pride. Team Fish Power needed to prove they were capable of taking on rival groups without grinding to absurd levels. This weighed heavy in my mind as we stepped through once again to the Amp Plains clearing. Team Fish Power had once again overcome the hurdles in their path, not by grinding, but by outthinking. Blizzard had launched Dory into a new power level, but I knew it wouldn't be enough for the whole game. The challenges ahead would require increasing levels of zany strategy, and maybe just a little bit of luck too. Even though we won the fight, the cutscene shows us being saved by Dusknoir, even though Dory is strong and independent and doesn't need rescuing. After the mission, the team goes on a romantic walk with Dusknoir, where Dory explains her human and future sight situation. Dusknoir seems to know about the strange visions, referring to them as dimensional screams. However, the romance is interrupted when the group notices a huge lack of romance in the air and an abnormal amount of Pelipper in the air. For the first time, a mailman actually prevented a baby from being made. Seeing the Pelippers as a signal that something's wrong, the team rushed back to the guild, where they learned an outlaw Grovyle has been stealing the time gears and freezing time. The guild resolved to find the time gears and stop Grovyle. Everyone split up, and Team Fish Power went to search the Northern Desert. The Northern Desert dungeons consisted of 3 parts, with 11 floors each. At this point, the team was strong enough to handle most challenges, but the desert presented all new hurdles. Ball toys using self-destruct did huge damage to the team, and Cacnea and Cacturn had Pin Missile, which could wipe our fish out with a couple lucky hits. Additionally, most Pokemon were Rock and Steel, meaning Tackle was ineffective. This elongated battles. Lastly, as the dungeons were getting longer, our inability to bring food into battle became more relevant. In Pokémon Mystery Dungeon, you have a hunger stat that decreases with each step. If it goes to 0, then you will lose HP every step until you faint. And with these dungeons being a desert, food is scarce. The other huge hurdle was traps. Traps occupied hidden tiles and activated when stepped on. The biggest issues were warp traps, which sent Dory to a random spot on the floor. Separating Marlin and Dory was horrible, as Marlin was not nearly as strong as Dory and was incapable of fighting enemies 2v1. The other worrisome trap was the summon trap, which would summon 3 enemies and put the party in a 3v1 situation. As we got deeper into the dungeon, the challenge increased with terrifying Pokemon. Scorpy and Sandslash threatened multi-hit moves that would take the party down with ease. Tyranitar, with huge stats, were hard to take down, but they weren't the biggest worry. The biggest issue was the weather itself. In Quicksand Cave, there are Pokemon who can start a sandstorm on each floor. Sandstorm does damage every 5 steps. This damage negates the natural healing we get from being idle. Rest was invaluable here, as it was the only way for Dory to recover health. Marlin, however, was not as lucky. Any damage into Marlin during a sandstorm was permanent. This created a lot of issues and led to multiple wipes. Sandstorm also makes Sandslash more threatening. They have the ability Sandville, meaning their evasion stat increases in Sandstorm, making them harder to hit. Against all this adversity, Dory and Marlin were able to break through after a couple of attempts, and we were met with yet another boss fight. We had just drudged through one of the hardest dungeons yet, and our reward was a boss fight against a mythical Pokemon. Mesprit was strong, level 42, and had a daunting moveset. Mesprit is guaranteed to know Future Sight. The other 3 moves will vary between the following: Rest, Confusion, Imprison, Protect, Swift, and Lucky Chant. Future Sight, while sounding intimidating, is horrible in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. It fixes the amount of damage an attacking move does, meaning stat lowering moves will no longer affect damage output. This is the best option for our fish friends, as they don't have anything that lowers special attack or increases their own special defense. Doing the calculations, I found that Confusion and Swift were the real moves to worry about. Confusion could one-shot Marlin and do serious damage to Dory, and Swift was no joke either. Just like with every first boss fight attempt in this series, the 2 wet noodles stepped forward and prepared to be turned into Nigiri by Mesprit. Dory starts by launching her strong moves, but the first blizzard misses as Mesprit inches in range. Her second move, Ice Beam, hits as Mesprit gives us a free turn and sets up Future Sight. The third Ice Beam hits and lands a critical freeze on Mesprit. So far, every first attempt of a boss fight had sent us packing in less than 3 turns. But this freeze meant Team Fish power was in an uncharted territory. This freeze exposed a glaring weakness in Mesprit's strategy. None of Mesprit's moves could hit over 1 tile. While you cannot damage a frozen Pokemon in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, the team could still take advantage of the free turns by creating some space. Dory was able to get 2 tiles between her and the mythical before Mesprit thawed. That meant 2 risk-free attacks. Soon the gap was closed, and Mesprit was threatening big damage again. But the RNG gods had blessed our fishy friends as they scored another freeze. Again, they retreated and bought themselves 3 tiles of space, but they had also pushed themselves against the wall. Dory launched attacks as Mesprit began to close the gap. It had all come down to this. Trapped in a corner, with nowhere to retreat, Team Fish Power had to finish the fight. Mesprit had been defeated, and on the first try, which sounds impressive, until you realize it took 2 freezes, perfect spacing, and Mesprit choosing the worst possible moves like it was playing for our team. If a single one of those things did not go our way, we would have been back to the drawing board. Team Fish Power had scored a huge victory, but future battles would require more than luck from our fishy friends. Team Fish Power was gaining momentum and returned to Treasure Town victorious, where Dory, with help from Dusknoir, was able to use Dimensional Scream to see where Grovyle would attack next. In her vision, she saw Crystal Cave. Grovyle was to be the team's next target. Grovyle was a grass Pokemon and would require more than just luck to beat. Grovyle was also much scarier than Mesprit. He was level 44 and had dangerous moves such as Agility and Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade might as well have been Excalibur, the sword of legend, because running the calcs, I saw that Leaf Blade would OHKO Marlin and do huge damage to Dory. Team Fish Power would need to win this fight near flawlessly, but there was a fatal weakness in Grovyle's armor. Knowing that the clash with Grovyle was inevitable, we picked up a new TM from the Kecleon shop and rushed to Crystal Cave. Crystal Cave was much simpler than the desert. While enemies got stronger, so had the fish, and since they were no longer in a desert, the sandstorms and lack of food that had plagued them were gone. At this point, they'd gotten past the steep level curve, leading from the beginning of the game to now, and the mid-game dungeons level out in difficulty. They rushed to the end of the dungeon with minimal wipes and confronted Grovyle, who was trying to steal the time gear. It was time for Dory to unleash her secret weapon. But this weapon wasn't a hard-hitting move like Blizzard or Ice Beam. It was something even stronger. Love. Before leaving Treasure Town, I had taught Dory Attract. Through this series, some of you may have been wondering why I made my Pokemon reincarnation a girl. I did so because Chunsoft, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon's developer, is sexist. And by this, I mean almost every boss in the game is either male or genderless. So by Dory being female, she can use Attract to make almost all of the bosses infatuated. Unlike the mainline games, infatuation completely prevents the Pokemon from attacking for 5 to 6 turns, meaning Grovyle is helpless, as Team Fish Power proves that love conquers all by beating his face in. While Grovyle technically can attack the turn infatuation ends, simply move 1 tile away during the infatuation phase. This will make Grovyle use his turn to step towards you, right into another Attract. Wait, Attract missed, and now Dory was at critical health. This was a fight again. We needed Attract to start landing. Luckily, Grovyle wastes a turn using Pursuit. Another miss. This was getting dicey fast. Luckily, Dory was able to pull it through and finish the fight. Again, even though Team Fish Power won the fight, Grovyle defeats them in a cutscene, but Dusknoir shows up and captures Grovyle. The team returned to the town square where Dusknoir told everybody the truth. Dusknoir told the town that he is from the future and came back to stop Grovyle, who is a criminal. Tied up and gagged just like the people in my basement, Dusknoir led Grovyle back through the portal. But before leaving, he beckoned the fish to come closer to him. In an instant, Dusknoir grabbed the fish and dragged them through the portal to the future. In the future, the team finds themselves tied up and ready for execution, but is able to escape with Grovyle's help. Realizing that Grovyle is the good guy, they race after him into the future dungeons. The team defeats 3 consecutive dungeons in the future. The Pokemon here aren't very memorable, but along the way, Dory and Magikarp are able to pick up 2 key upgrades. We find the TM Vacuum Cut, and much to my surprise, Marlin can learn it? Now Magikarp can't learn any TMs, but Vacuum Cut is a TM specifically in the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon franchise that every single Pokemon can learn, so I hadn't even considered it when team building. Dory also picks up the move Water Pulse. With Blizzard, Dory had a move to cover her grass weakness, and Ice Beam was becoming redundant. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon also puts an emphasis on same type attack bonus, meaning a stab neutral move will do more damage than a super effective one. This was a huge upgrade to Dory's power, and it also came with a side effect that will come in clutch in the future. The dungeons of the future mostly just contained annoying ghost Pokemon. Ghost Pokemon could hit you through the wall without being able to be retaliated against, and a lot of them had the ability Pressure, which meant we used our moves PP twice as fast. This was very annoying in scaling every dungeon, but was never a huge hurdle. Again, the only thing that posed a threat were the monster houses. The team ran through all 3 dungeons and through sealed ruins to confront the boss, Spiritomb. Spiritomb is a ghost and dark Pokemon that is said to be made of 108 cursed spirits who were punished 500 years ago. Now I could break down every level of the Spiritomb and its movesets, but that would be pointless because the Spiritomb is male. This was genuinely surprising to me. I always thought Spiritomb was genderless, and now that I see that it's not, it only raises more questions. Like, are all 108 spirits male, or is it like majority win situation? Like if there are 55 males and 53 female spirits in there, is it just male and the rest of the female spirits have to deal with it for all of eternity? But why or how Spiritomb is male doesn't matter. All that matters is that it'll be an easy fight for our fish. The fish step forward and start the fight. Wait, what happened? Spiritomb is the first boss we faced so far that can hit the whole room. We are used to bosses coming right to us, but this is different. Spiritomb can wipe us out before we even get close enough to attract. This is strength that we haven't seen so far. Spiritomb is truly a glass cannon with buffing moves and room clearers. I had gotten cocky. I assumed every male boss from here on out would be a pushover, but Spiritomb proved just how wrong I was. Luckily, our fish weren't defeated quite yet, and they thirsted for blood. We quickly rematch Spiritomb and close the gap. Dory tanked the curses and uses Attract on Spiritomb, and the match is all but over. With Spiritomb helpless, Dory unleashes the power of Stab Water Pulse. Team Fish Power laid a beatdown that Spiritomb is sure to remember for another 500 years. After defeating Spiritomb, Grovyle joins our party, and we journey to find a Celebi that takes us back to the future. Grovyle tells us that he was gathering time gears in order to appease a primal Dialga who caused the bleak future we now find ourselves in. We journey through the next 3 dungeons with Grovyle and eventually Celebi on our side. Previously, we had journeyed with Bidoof, who had proved to be the MVP of Mount Horn. And if Bidoof is the MVP of partners, then Grovyle and Celebi are the GOATs. Grovyle has Leaf Blade and Agility to speed up our party, and a strong dig attack. The team was cruising. With 2 additional partners, they raced through the next dungeons, and finally got to the portal that Celebi opened. But before they could swim through, Dusknoir attacks and captures Celebi. He also reveals the true nature of who Dory is. Dory isn't just a random Pokemon. She is the partner who went to the past with with Grovyle. After this revelation, Team Fishpower and Grovyle escaped to the future. The team had returned to the present with Grovyle, and while they had been successful in neutralizing the bosses in the mid-game, I knew that the road ahead was much harder. Attract had gotten them this far, but it was fading in usefulness. What happened when the opponent wasn't male? And also, it wasn't 100% accurate. An unlucky fight would send the team back to the start of the dungeon, and Team Fishpower could no longer rely on luck to win. Additionally, how could they possibly be a primal Dialga? It was genderless, just like Groudon, so Attract won't work. Luck carried us this far. Charm carried us further. But neither will be enough for what comes next. If Team Fishpower wants to survive the endgame, they'll have to push the game to the absolute limits. If you're still here, thanks for watching the whole entire video. If you liked it, make sure to drop a like or comment. It really helps push the video out to more people. Also, if you want to see more content, subscribe for part 3 and maybe even part 4 if people want to see the post game.